Nikki Kuhnhausen was called in as a missing person to the Vancouver Police Department. Her mother, Lisa, told us everybody was concerned because they knew this is not Nikki. This is not Nikki to go dark like this for such a long period of time.
Nikki Kuhnhausen was just a 17-year-old. I think her friends would describe her as sort of a mini influencer in her own way. Nikki loved to post makeup tutorials, and she was lip syncing a lot, and just, she had some fun attitude to her videos.
She's a 17-year-old teenager. It's what life is about, is posting on social media and staying in contact with your friends.
She would be on Snapchat on a regular basis. So dropping off on Snapchat was another big red flag where we thought, wow, we really need to take a deeper look into what happened to Nikki.
Growing up, we were in and out of foster care. So my role as the protector started off when we were 10 years old. My mom and dad left a note for us above the door, and it said, "Going for cigarettes, be back ASAP." And they didn't return for up to 3 months, is when I finally ran out of food and went down to our foster mom's house. We would get Nikki at home from day one, but whenever we went to daycare, it was Nicholas. When she actually told all of us, she was like, I think I want to start dressing like a girl, da da da. We're like, dude, you've been doing that in your bedroom for 11 years now. You need to tell your friends at school once you feel comfortable, not us. The next day, she did her makeup, all the stuff that she would do at home. That was a cool time, to say the least, because it was when she actually blossomed and you could see the happiness 24/7.
She was often trying to just give people permission to live as who they are.
She had a heart like no other, trying to be voices for people that didn't have theirs or couldn't find theirs. I wish the whole world could have got to know the Nikki that I knew.
On the morning of June 6th, Nikki came home to the apartment complex where Nikki was staying. She told her roommate that she had met a male that she described as an older Russian male. He invited her to go have drinks with he and his brother at the bars, but Nikki declined and said that she was gonna head home, and he gave her his jacket. He had told her that he was gonna go help her pick up her own cell phone because at the time, Nikki had lost her cell phone. And so they exchanged with one another their Snapchat information.
Nikki leaves sometime around 6 a.m., and they never saw her again.
We wrote an emergency disclosure order to Snapchat. We think a person is in imminent harm, and we need you to give us the content of her Snapchat.
Snapchat is super popular, especially among younger people, because it's easy, it's quick, it's fun. You can send videos and photos in what's called a snap, where you send it and within seconds it disappears. There's also a feature that is just a message, and those disappear within a number of seconds.
However, law enforcement is able to, with a search warrant, gain that information that the users think is gone. It's not always entirely deleted from Snapchat. We were able to learn the username of the person that Nikki was chatting with was Bogdan_David.
Snapchat sends back all of the profile information for that account, including an email address associated with the account, a phone number, and most importantly, a name. The name associated with that Snapchat account is David Bogdanov.
On October 2nd of 2019, David Bogdanov sat down with detectives. David initially told detectives that after he drops Nikki off, he goes to Portland to work. Looking at David's phone records, it shows that David, instead of reporting to work in Portland like he told him, he actually took a trip out to Larch Mountain. Larch Mountain is east of Vancouver by over an hour, and Portland is south of Vancouver. So the information that the cell phone was giving us was complete contrast to what David's statements were.
Eventually, some months later, a person who was out foraging for wild plants at Larch Mountain stumbled upon something very shocking.
they found. Some remains that they believe to be a human skeleton.
Investigators retrieve multiple human bones. They also find items of clothing. They find a jacket, a bandana, multiple items of jewelry. Detectives took all the items that they found at the scene at Larch Mountain and they compared them to photographs Nikki had posted on her social media pages. And they found that many of those items were the same items Nikki had worn in her photos: the jacket, the watch, the ring.
A forensic odontologist made an examination of the dental records and then confirmed that the remains belonged to Nikki.
Among the items of evidence was a phone charging cord, and that phone charging cord was tied up in a knot.
It was found wrapped up in the extensions that Nikki used to wear. It was knotted in a very small loop. And in that nest of hair extensions, they found not just the cord, but they found also Nikki's hyoid bone, which is a small bone that's in your vocal box. And so the cord had to have been tied around Nikki's neck at the time that her body was disposed of. David Bogdanov was arrested in December of 2019, and the case went to trial in August of 2021, so it had been just over 2 years since Nikki had gone missing.
David had to come up with an explanation about what happened because the digital evidence showed that they were together.
The defense disclosed that they were going to argue about self-defense or raise self-defense as an argument at trial. He was going to say that he was justified, and that was definitely a surprise for us. David testified that he and Nikki were in his vehicle. A sexual encounter occurs. During that sexual encounter, he learned that she was not born a female, and he got very upset about that.
So you were upset that you'd been deceived?
Of course, who wouldn't be? What straight male wouldn't be in that kind of a situation?
That's when the physical altercation started, when you shoved her, right?
Yes.
David said Nikki was going to reach for a gun that he kept in the front of the car.
I was definitely trying to keep her away from the gun. And I would say, thank goodness I have the strength, because otherwise it might have been different.
David described on the stand that he thought Nikki was going to kill him. And remember, David is much larger in stature than Nikki. He outweighed her by at least 50 to 100 pounds.
During the struggle, she was very strong, very wiry.
Well, it'd be fair that she was probably fighting for her life, right?
And so he grabbed what he said was the closest thing to him, which was a phone cord.
And it's your testimony that the cord just happened to slip up to her neck?
Yes.
And he says that he kept pulling even after she stopped moving. He said he never provided her any aid. He took her body and put it in his trunk and then decided to drive out to Larch Mountain. Ultimately, after deliberations, the jury found David Bogdanov guilty of murder in the second degree and malicious harassment, which is what we used to call a hate crime in Washington. At sentencing, the court imposed the maximum possible sentence for murder in the second degree, which was 19.5 years. The sentence for his malicious harassment runs concurrent to that sentence under Washington law. It doesn't seem like enough time when you're talking about someone, especially Nikki, who was 17 and had her entire life ahead of her.
I just emotionally and mentally could not watch the trial. I did watch the verdict. When I was told the sentence that he was given for murdering a 17-year-old child in cold blood, I was not happy. For you to take a life because you don't agree with the way that they're living that life, nah.